And guys, we're back.
Hey!
That was a great start.
Yeah,
It was different. It wasn't Adam.
I know. This is Daniel. Hi, guys. Welcome. And what are we going to talk about today?
Moneyball.
Yes. Great movie.
Adam's sitting there in silence. I know exactly what he's doing.
What am I doing?
Before we started the show, Adam told Daniel that if anything goes wrong today, it's on him. So he's just not going to talk.
Oh, so I got to fill in like the dead silence. The worst thing you could ever do on broadcast.
Oh, I don't do that very well, so don't worry, buddy.
Yes, thank you, Adrian Ma, for the advice at Ryerson Journalism.
Still shouting out Ryerson. We're not even going to school anymore.
I know. I'm starting to miss it, guys. Like, don't you miss it? Like, we think about the morning grind, and now we're like, oh, wait, suddenly it's not there. Suddenly we're wearing sweatpants more than we should.
It's crazy. I haven't... Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm okay with being locked in my room. It's fine to me.
Well, you got your Lego. You got your Lego, man.
Man, my Lego's all built, man. I got the Falcon, my two walkers, Luke's sand speeder, the little train I got. Like, they're all over there, man.
So
and they're still protected.
So you have nothing else to build?
No, I'm going to save up my money because there is a 4,000 piece Imperial Star Destroyer that I would like to get for my 21st birthday. And I'm not going to say the price, even though you can look it up on Lego.com. So if you guys want to submit for my 21st birthday, I appreciate it.
That might be a hard no from me.
We'll send positive vibes.
Yes. Well, of course. Yeah. Always positive vibes here at the 2-on-1 podcast.
It's a hockey podcast.
It's a hockey podcast. Okay, why don't we get started?
For sure. All right. So, I guess, who wants to go first? What was your first opinion on the movie? What did you guys like about it?
I loved the movie. I wanted Adam to watch this movie in particular, and I know it's a little... I guess it's a little bit different than what happened in real life, or kind of different from the book, which I haven't read yet. I'm dying to read the book. When this is all over, I'm going to Indigo and buying this book. But I wanted Adam to watch this movie because it's all about statistics, and I know, Adam. He says he likes statistics. I don't think he does, because every time I bring it up, he just skips right past it. But I enjoyed it because the number one, the cast is good. I mean, I can list the first three people that come to my head, and that alone is good enough. Chris Pratt, Brad Pitt, and Jonah Hill.
Philip Seymour Hoffman,
yeah.
Great.
Right, so like that, I guess from a movie standpoint, I think it's pretty good. I just love this. I love the story. I think it gets people. Well, for me at least, it got me really thinking about, okay, how does this apply to other sports? Is what they were doing necessarily, does it work? So it was a movie, I think, that not a lot of movies do. I think documentaries get you to think a lot. I don't know how many movies I've watched that really got me thinking the way that this movie has.
Okay. Adam, what was your opinion?
First of all, I feel like I should make my stance on analytics quite clear here. Listen.
Okay.
I respect analytics, and I know they have a place in the game. However, I don't rely on them 100%. I don't need a spreadsheet to tell me that Brendan Gallagher is a bastard to play against, and I love him, right? But again, like, I understand where they're needed, and I think some analytics are a bit like, man, do we really care about that? And I noticed on the doc there's something about overrated advanced stats, which I'm sure we're going to look at, like high danger save percentage. What? Like, shut up. You can't determine that. But anyway, I looked at Moneyball, and I looked at it more as just a movie, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. I loved this movie. Not just as a sports thing, but as the story itself. I thought it was fantastic. Like you, Alex, I love the cast. It's always a joy to see Jonah Hill do something more serious, even though I was just waiting for him to make a joke. And him being more of this, like, the analytic, more shy fellow, I really liked that. I don't like Brad Pitt as a person, but as an actor, he's fantastic, and he did such a good job playing. What's his name?
Billy Bean.
Billy Bean, yeah. I'm not a massive baseball guy. I've been to one Jays game in my life, and I hated it. But and also Philip Seymour Hoffman's always a joy to watch in these movies. So and Chris Pratt is just such a darling in Hollywood, and just whatever he plays is kind of like more like soft-spoken characters. I love him. I love Star-Lord, but he was good in this movie too. He steals the scene, even though he's not the biggest presence of a character. So. Yeah, I love the movie. I rewatched it again today. I normally don't rewatch movies, so it was a good sign. And I don't want to say it's my favorite movie of all time yet, but oh boy, I think if this stands the test of time, it's going to give the original Jurassic Park a run for its money in my mind. But I loved the movie. I really did.
I'm so proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the recommendation, Alex.
You know what? I had it because the reason I suggested it. So obviously we're in quarantine, or we're in lockdown, whatever you want to call it. And it had been on Netflix a while back, and then it had gone taken off Canadian Netflix, and then I noticed it again recently. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna add this to my list. I have lots of time on my hands, because I'm doing nothing most of the day. So why don't I give this movie a watch? And I watched it. I'm like, man, like not only is it good sports, like, and I feel like I'm just saying this again, but not only is it good from a sports perspective to think about, but like just in general.
Mm-hmm.
Just in general, it's a good movie. I have one thing I have to ask Daniel to see if if you noticed it.
Okay,
so it's one of the I think earlier scenes when I believe he called Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Mark
Shapiro. And as soon as he said Mark Shapiro, I'm like, Mark Shapiro, like that guy's in Toronto. That was my first reaction. I'm like, I don't know. I noticed it right away. I was talking to Adam about it before. I'm like, I don't know if Adam's going to notice it, but I'm going to see if he noticed it. Did you notice it, Adam?
Out for sure.
The name stood out. Okay. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. He was pretty spot on. Like the actors, like his mannerisms were really on point as well.
Yeah. That's the only thing I wanted to point out that was kind of funny for me.
Yeah. For me, it's like two perspectives. I watched this movie when it first came out, and I was mostly just a hockey and a basketball guy. Mostly like hockey, and I was just like, okay, yeah, it's a fun movie, it's pretty cool. I already knew like that whole thing with the stats was on the rise, but it wasn't as big as it is today. Right. I guess like maybe for the sports people within sports, but not for us like fans. So I just kind of just didn't really think of it. But then as like I got older, watched it again, kind of realized like, man, like two things. I'm a big baseball fan now, and second, it's things that make you really think like, okay, these are how you value a lot of players, and just like other questions too, kind of not even from the stats perspective, but what I kind of felt was the whole salary cap thing. Like they were comparing like the Oakland Athletics at the beginning of the championship series against the Yankees. They had like $34 million on their salary cap, and then the Yankees spent like $144 million.
Right.
So just kind of things that made me think about, not just for hockey, but what we're going to talk about later was how it applies to like other sports too. The whole thing about salary caps, hard and soft, luxury taxes, really how to make like the league fair, like what's really fair, and also too, player analysis. That's something that really interested me like this time around.
Right. So would you say this movie got you into baseball? Is that what you're saying, or did I misunderstand that?
Like watching it again kind of reinforced why I like baseball.
Okay.
But it was always in the back of my mind. Like I remember when this movie first came out, everyone talked about Billy Bean. I remember there was this running joke. Okay, so Billy Bean's the one who traded Josh Donaldson to the Toronto Blue Jays.
Really?
Yes, and like it looks kind of fair now what the deal went. It was like Brett Laurie and like 3 prospects for Josh Donaldson, and then people were laughing when like Donaldson won the MVP 2015. They're like, I will never watch Moneyball the same way. When I found out Billy Beane traded Josh Donaldson like that to the Toronto Blue Jays. But yeah, it worked out. Like the main guy they got in those trades, like the Athletics, like they're not Donaldson level, but they're pretty solid guys.
It feels like there was a bit of slap in the face stuff. Like retrospectively looking at this movie. So of course so Oakland had that 20-game win streak, right? I was looking it up. So what's really funny is that the Indians in 2017 had a 22-game streak. Yeah. Which is where Jonah Hill's character came from. And then 2 years after Buddy turns down the contract, or Billy Beane turns down the contract to go to the Red Sox, using his model 2 years later, they win. I was looking at this and I'm like, damn, this sucks. Because and they still haven't won to this day, obviously, have Oakland, right? But it just, there was so much. I'm like, wow, you guys, you changed the game, but oh boy, you have just not gotten the payoff for it.
For sure,
yeah. No, go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, what I kind of felt was, at first, like when I first watched this movie, I kind of felt like Billy Beane was like this guy that like just the model executive kind of thing. But I think I told you, like as I got into more baseball and saw, I guess like the business side of it or what he kind of had to deal with. One recent thing was like Kyler Murray. He drafted him 9th overall. The guy signed, so there's no compensation pick, right? But they let him go back to college. But then he's like, hey, guys, I'm going to the NFL. I'm not playing for the MLB. So you just lost the 9th overall pick. And I guess that's something like another thing people kind of criticize Billy Beane for making that like top 10 pick. But, you know, in hindsight, it's like a business thing. He knows how to roll with it, know how to roll with like these things that come up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess this was kind of what I was going to bring up from Adam's point. Is like you look at every team in the league. And yeah, you know what? The Boston Red Sox won using their model somewhat. That's kind of how they explained it in the movie, right? So, yeah. But they also had a lot more money to work with.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like, and I guess that was kind of a discussion we were going to get into eventually, is the model, whether you think it works or not, there's so many. There's multiple variables to think of, and for me, like my opinion looking at all this is I think one of the bigger ones is the amount of money you can work with. Where the Oakland Athletics were working with $40 million.
Yeah.
The Boston Red Sox are working with what? Over $100 million at least.
What was the stat? I think I have it here. That when he's meeting with the Red Sox guy at the end, how he points out that season they had, that the Oakland Athletics, Oakland Athletics? Yes. Yeah, sorry. Ended up paying, if you break down them, I think it was the Yankees were like $1 million per win plus, when with Oakland's strategy it was $260,000. So $260,000 per win. Like a fourth loss the Yankees did. It's incredible to look at.
Yeah. I know a lot has changed now because like there's pitchers now getting $30 million a year, which is like Garrett Cole. But yeah, it's crazy to like think of even that like not even that long ago, like the 2000s, you worked around that budget.
You know what's the funniest thing to me is, so this is what it would have been around 2000, 2002, he gets the original deal from the Red Sox. That here we are in, what was it, 2017? Was that when McDavid got his contract?
I believe so.
So here as we're at the beginning of the 2000s, the start of the new millennia, and probably the richest or second richest team in baseball can give a general manager $12.5 million, right? While in the NHL, the best player in the world, I know it's in 12, I want to get the exact number here, just to put in perspective how big baseball is. That Connor McDavid makes 12.5 exactly. And baseball could spend that money in the early 2000s. That's another crazy little stat that I thought of.
I have a funny... my friend... Because do you guys remember Kwame Brown in the NBA? Because I'm comparing like basketball as well.
Kwame Brown!
So like this guy was horrible. Not horrible, but like he didn't really live up to his potential. And I remember my friend, like he was mostly a hockey guy. He was laughing. He's like, this guy just got $7 million. You know, that guy's like a like at the same time, like before the extension, before his extension, that was like a comparable to like Steven Stamkos, and then he's like, while you're paying like a top center that money to like
Tarasenko makes $75 million. That's a guy who scored 40 goals before.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. Like just these comparisons.
Well, there's so much. There's so much money going around in even basketball and baseball than there is in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just throw around money sometimes. I feel like sometimes it just looks like they're just throwing around money for fun.
All right. Man. Now that we're on the topic, what do you guys think? Like, I guess from the Moneyball idea, what is your opinion on like hard salary caps? I know that because we're mostly NHL guys, but what is your opinion on it? Do you like?
I don't like the hard salary cap.
No.
No, I think there should be a salary cap. I understand the economics behind the salary cap and why it's implemented, but I think it would be better. Like you look at how many teams now struggle to stay beyond, to not go above the salary cap. Like I think we talked about it last episode. Adam listed like 8 teams that were either above or just below the salary cap. Why not implement something like, I mean, the NBA is, I guess, the thing with looking at the NBA is that they have all these different things that go into their salary cap that makes it, for anyone, just like any NHL fan, if you look at the NBA salary cap, I think you'd be confused because there's so many different things that kind of go into it. And I think something like that could be implemented and work in the NHL because the money that is essentially in the luxury tax, right? You're paying what, $2 for every $1 or whatever the ratio is. That money ends up going back to the teams who don't make money.
Adam, what's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at. I look at Toronto as an example, and that's a team. You have to look at all the shenanigans that they have to pull off just to be able to work around the salary cap, right? And listen, and they're only one of probably three, 4 teams that can manage to pull it off, right? And it's exactly what they could do in a scenario like a luxury tax. Like you pay all this extra money in that, right? And because they do that anyway. Like again, we've talked about this multiple times, how there are not many teams in the league that actually make money, right? And it would just, and the luxury tax system is just such a simple way where you can still let the rich teams spend their money and it still helps out those poorer teams like the Yotes and that, right? Yeah. You look at the Panthers right now, and they're cutting, what was it, $10 million of salary in that, right? They're not going to have to deal with that issue. What was it, like a few years ago, they were losing, what was it, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, a day because of how bad things were getting there, right? Maybe an organization would be in better situations. I 100% agree with the whole thing of we need a luxury tax, and it's what people have been saying for years, right?
And I was having, this isn't recently, I had a discussion about this with someone a while ago, and they said there's no way Gary Bettman implements a soft cap. So my understanding is, because before he was the commissioner of the NHL, he worked in the NBA. I don't remember his position off the top of my head. I can pull that up.
I'll check, don't worry.
And he was kind of there helping out with the implementation of a salary cap in the NBA. And the NHL was the first time he could sit there and say, this is what I want. And he's like, hard cap. And it didn't seem like he was very willing to change. Like, I feel like it's... What?
Sorry, do you want me to read his whole history of the NBA? It's only like 2-3 sentences.
Sure.
This is from Wikipedia, so bear with me here. But, well, Bettman joined the National Basketball Association in 1981, serving mainly in the marketing and legal departments. Bettman rose to third in command of the NBA, spending many years as the league's general counsel and senior vice president. Bettman played a key role in the development of the soft cap system implemented and agreed by the NBA in 1983, a system it continues to use today, end quote.
Yeah, and doesn't that get you thinking why they, like, it's not that it, like, if you look at the NBA, I mean, it's not like many people, it doesn't seem like it's that big of an issue there. I mean, I guess the markets, even the lower team markets, I'd have to check, but I can imagine they're making some type of money. In this case scenario, when you have the bottom 5 teams are not making money, having a luxury tax, does it not benefit the team? Like, you're getting more money to distribute. Like, think about it. Like, how many teams would go over the cap?
Just like a select few, I think.
5. I can imagine 5. Toronto, Montreal. Well, they have Marc Bergevin, so maybe not. But
Rangers.
Possibly. Toronto, Montreal, Rangers, Boston, and Chicago. Maybe not Chicago.
Yeah,
maybe a few years ago, Chicago. Yeah.
Let's say that these top teams are competitive. Montreal, Toronto, Rangers, Boston, Chicago, LA. Those are the richest in the league.
Yeah. Like, that's it. Those are the only teams that are potentially going to go over. I could see other teams in the future going over. Like a team like Carolina, maybe. I don't know. Depends on how much money they end up bringing in. But
well, they aren't paying their staff, so.
Like,
it's true. Like, I think using like a basketball perspective, like only now the last few years the Raptors have been paying the luxury tax. It's because they're winning, right? It makes sense. But for years, like, they were always under the cap.
Right. I think it would make sense in the NHL because it helps distribute money to the lower teams.
It's true. Like, I remember, that's crazy. Like, if you look back to like 2005 lockout, before that, when there wasn't really like a salary cap, you saw guys spending like crazy. That's really, like, people said like that's what kind of doomed the Avalanche, because they lost Peter Forsberg, they couldn't pay him. I don't know, like you see like back on the Leafs, that team. Remember when they had like Owen Nolan, Ron Francis?
Yeah, well,
they're signing
they had to dump a bunch of salary because salary cap.
You think like if that were to happen, do you think we're still, all those deals like the Patrick Marleau trade to Carolina, or even like where you incentivize deals where you give a draft pick to kind of sweeten the pot? Do you think those are going to end, or they're going to keep going?
I think because at the end of, even with the soft cap, you do have a hard cap, right? So let's use the NHL as an example. Right now it's 81.5. So from 81.5 to, like, I know there'd be in there, it'd be like, from 81.5 to 83 million, it's 2-1, 83 to 85, whatever. So let's say 81, the max you can spend is 100. Just throwing a number out there, right? So they probably would still happen. But if you're a team, I don't know how often. Like, if you're a team like Toronto and you can get back an asset for taking on a crappy contract, and that means you have to go into the luxury tax, I could see a team like any of the 6 teams that we just mentioned, I could see them taking on crappy contracts and getting assets in return, for even if they have to go above the soft cap number.
Okay. Adam, thoughts?
I remember when I saw that Leafs Patrick Marleau Carolina deal, I just rolled over. Because I hate that stuff so much. I hate having to give up an asset to get rid of a bad deal like that. I really do. And in the future, I think, man, and maybe this is just like the way I'm thinking about it. I don't know if you mean in this exact sort of frame, but I imagine that the NHL should have some sort. I think with everything going on with the virus and everything getting shut down, how the league is losing billions of dollars, right, because of the revenue they're going to lose. I would be really surprised if at the end of this there's not another look at the cap system. Because honestly, I don't know how else you fix what's going to happen. Because the big thing that everyone thinks is going to happen is the compliance buyouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then that's going to ruin everything because then all those players getting compliant bought out are going to flood the market, and the value for everyone's just going to go down because there's a surplus of assets, basic economics, all that kind of stuff, right? So I would really hope that, and yeah, how likely is it? I don't really know because I can never tell with the NHL, that after the virus cools down and with this loss of revenue, maybe they look at another way of redoing the cap. I don't know, and hopefully maybe the PA would do something about it, but I don't have a lot of faith in it. But yeah, I'll say I hate deals like the Patrick Marleau one because I hate having to see a team give up an asset just to clear out a bad deal when, let's be honest, they have the money to just deal with it themselves. I don't like it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Alex, you're going to add something?
No, I agree with that. I agree with Adam in that it sucks that teams. I mean, and I don't want to sound like a homo. What's another example of a team doing that? Just to throw.
Do you remember when Sam Gagner got traded 3 times in one day?
Yeah. Oh, poor guy. Poor fella.
Because every team wanted to get rid of that $3 million cap hit.
Where is he now?
Isn't he back on Edmonton?
I think so.
But he's he was in the minors, yeah.
Oh.
But he's still getting $3 million a year.
Awesome, good for him. Yeah, it sucks that there's teams that can pay these deals. I don't necessarily think, just I guess to go off of Adams, I don't necessarily think they're going to actually end up redoing it. I'd love for them to redo it. I just think I don't know how likely it is that that's something they do now. Especially now, you think we're going through all this trouble. The CBA is expiring. I think next season.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other complication to deal with the PA, whereas they'd rather just not deal with it. They'd say, you know what? Okay, I think they'd rather do a compliance buyout now. Deal with the compliance buyouts now.
Mm-hmm.
Adam.
Just so you guys know, Sam Gagner, who was, of course, the 6th overall pick in 2007 by the Oilers. Just a quick little thing from him. Oiler in 2014, then to the Yotes for 14-15, to the Flyers for 15-16, then 16-17 to the Blue Jackets, 17-18 to the Canucks. Remember, at one point he was playing for the Marlies. 18-19 Canucks to the Oilers again, and then at the deadline, I believe, he was traded in the Atmosphere or the Green deal. So now,
yes.
Gagner, the Detroit Red Wing.
He signed this deal. Sorry, he signed this deal with the Blue Jackets, right? I believe so.
Yeah, he was a power play specialist.
Because I remember John Tortorella talking about him. Because I think John Tortorella was coach.
I think he was a lightning for 4 hours.
Oh God!
For those summer deals.
The summer.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
In 16-17, they signed him to a 1-year deal. I'll check out his cap-friendly detail.
Okay.
Before we keep going with the analytics stuff, sorry, can I just give you guys some thoughts from the Moneyball movie before we go on?
Yeah.
Sure.
Just because there's some stuff I'll go quick fire here.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I want to ask you, Daniel. I talked about a bit of this with Alex. Was Billy Bean the Patrick Stephan of the MLB?
Patrick Stephan. I don't know. I guess because he went so high, and
I don't player.
Okay, that's one thing I actually really liked about it. We talked about it last time about the NCAA players, about whether you sign right away or you go to school, and in his that's been something I've been thinking about a lot because it's happening so much more in the NHL. But that whole thing about whether or not you go to college or not, but it's so different in the MLB because it's either you lose your that you don't sign and you have to re-enter the draft.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's so clear cut in the MLB. So it's like either you go to school or you sign with the team right away, or you wait and get drafted again. But in the NHL, like they hold on to your rights throughout your whole time in school. I think like that's kind of something like, oh, that was really interesting. And then when we went through like Billy Bean's origin story about what does he do? Do you take the money, or do you go to Stanford? And I love that when he said like that was the last time he was going to make a decision based on money.
Great line. The part where he bought Jonah Hill's character, can you actually do that in the MLB? Can you buy executives?
Okay, so like, you know, there's probably like a lot of background stuff we missed because like for the pacing of the movie, but they probably just negotiated like, we'll give you this guy for, I don't know, like I actually don't know. That part might be of Seinfeld. Remember George Costanza?
Never seen Seinfeld.
Okay, he tries to like say that like the chicken company is trying to give him more money like than the Yankees. So the Yankees propose like a trade where like they trade him in exchange for like exclusive rights to have that chicken at Yankee games. I was like, I don't know, you know. It's like these types of like movies or TV show stories where you don't really know what goes on in the background. But I remember for the actual trades and how you tell players you've been traded, apparently that's really accurate how Billy Bean approached it. You literally just sit down, yeah.
Yeah, I loved those scenes so much. Same with when he got Jonah Hill to do it to the rookie they traded. Nice depth to his character too. That like there was a bit more. A lot of it felt like maybe Jonah was teaching Billy Bean stuff. Oh, I don't know why. I don't remember his actual character name, so I'm just calling him Jonah Hill. But also like getting to see him do some more stuff was actually really, really, really cool. I love the scene when he first brings Pete in, and then like that was his name, Pete. I have it on the notes. And he's like, if you don't tell me what I want to hear, I'm going to point at Pete again. Love that.
That was a great scene, too. Like, that whole, like, kind of like the old guard
Does
of
he
how
get
do
on
you...
base?
His girlfriend's a 6, so we shouldn't draft him. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that was weird.
That seems like the perfect 200 hockey men quote of the year.
Oh, yeah. The scene where he goes and I didn't realize what this was, of course, at first, but when he's seeing his ex-wife and the stepfather, and he's like, she's 12 and you gave her a phone? What? I was like, wow, yeah, this is shout out to Brad Pitt for keeping a straight face on there. I wish we had gotten some payoff with the soda. I wanted to see the players realize that they finally got their free soda.
Oh, true, yeah. That was funny.
Really
funny.
Something I liked because it was a nice mesh of the human side of it and the locker room distraction. How they traded I can't remember his name, but it was the dude's brother who was...
Yambi, yeah.
Yeah. I liked how they got rid of him. It was nice to see the human side of, I don't care about the analytics right now, this guy needs to go, he's a problem. My favorite scene of the movie was the trade deadline. When they're going like, we got, get Buddy on the line. Oh, wait, he's on line too. We got this. I love that. We talked about the trade stuff. I love when he has to go and tell the dude that he gets sent down. And then when he sees the guy that's replacing him at the hall, you're like, oh, no, this is tough.
That was a great scene. Like, that's kind of something we don't think about either. Like, these guys that go back and forth to the minors, you know, I guess like the mental side of it.
Yeah. Who was that goalie? Was it Mike McKenna?
Yes.
Who played for 6 teams?
Yeah.
And just my last thing on this, I wanted to ask, did Hattenberg get that home run in real life?
I think so.
Because that is incredible to me, by the way. That was such a good little scene. Apparently that Chris Pratt had like the mannerisms, the facial expressions of that guy. Apparently, like really, I was watching a YouTube thing of it, so like this is why I'm double checking, because I only watched a YouTube comment and I saw someone say, "Oh, he did like the facial expressions and all that," right? But I didn't know for sure. So, but again, yeah, how they handled that 20-game win streak and how they led up to 19, I was like, "Are we gonna get it?" And then he turns back around for the game and they blow an 11-run lead. Yeah. Oh. Poor guys, but yeah, that's all I had to say for the movie. I just wanted to put a little bow because what a fantastic movie, Money. It really is.
Really great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we're on like the stats side of things again.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. I know, like Adam, like you're kind of like wishy-washy on it. And I know like Drew Doughty in the past has been like he dismisses it completely. It's like he called it crap. All these advanced stats kind of things. So what do you guys think?
Here's the thing on advanced stats. It's like I don't understand half of it. That's one thing.
There's like certain ones I understand where like relative Corsi. I know like if you're above 45% or above 55%, you're considered an elite player.
Yeah. So for me, it's like I understand that there's two sides to it, right? You have your statistics, and you also have the eye test or the human element to it. And I think a lot of people or teams or executives have trouble with is taking a mix of both of them. What's the right amount of both of them? Because they're both at the end of the day, yes, statistics are useful for telling you something, and the eye test is important in telling you something too, and the actual human element. So yeah, like I guess what the guy said in the movie was really stupid in that, oh, his girlfriend's a 6, we shouldn't draft him. Like, yeah, that's stupid. I think there's certain human elements, and you know who talks about it a lot is Brian Burke. I swear, every time they talk about the draft, they talk about the combine interviews or the interviews they do in general. And you can get a lot out of a player in doing those interviews. And the one he always brings up is the Andrei Svechnikov story.
Yeah.
Him being, he played in Barrie in the OHL, and he asked Andre where he worked out, and he said across the street, and Jeff Merrick is like, why did you ask him that? And he goes, because Barrie's the only gym in the arena in the OHL to not have a gym in the arena, and apparently players will BS it and say they train in the arena when there's no gym in the arena. So I find that there's like I think there's many variables when it comes to how successful a player will be, and I think it's a matter of finding a mix of all of them to actually value a player. And
Definitely, I agree with that.
And I think that's I'm gonna say this about Toronto. I think that's something. I can only talk about Toronto because that's the team I know the most about. I'm not trying to be a homer at all. I'm just the team. Like Adam can probably tell me something about Marc Bergevin too. Daniel, you can tell me something about Bob Murray. I think what the Leafs do well at is looking at the statistics, but sometimes they look too much at statistics. In certain players, like you really have to bring in. Like I get it's important to bring in. This is another thing. They bring in the cheap NHL forwards, and sometimes they work out. Like Ilya Mikheyev worked out, right? Like this guy they're talking to, Barabanov, he could work out. I don't know, but he's a cheap forward, which is what the team needs. So I think sometimes they rely too much. Like Cody Ceci is the perfect bad example, where they say, you know what, we see something, and I'm like, what the hell do you see in Cody Ceci? I heard someone said something about his underlying stats. I'm like, man, I'm sorry, but that's not good enough for me.
For sure. Random point is that's why Martin Marincin tends to come in here and there. Like he has pretty advanced stats.
Yes, I hear that about Martin Marincin. I'm like, man, you need to stop talking. You just sound crazy.
Just watch him play. Well, watch the moment the puck touches his stick, and I think you'll realize why Martin Marincin isn't an NHL player.
He's a seventh defenseman.
So not an NHL regular.
No. I know. I'm on your side.
Yeah, it's.
I know if you use NHL 20 examples, what is he on the binoculars, guys?
Oh, he's 7th D, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Adam, how about you? What do you think on? Sorry, Alex, you were gonna say something.
No.
Adam, what do you think? I guess like stats wise on the approach that I guess the Canadians may have.
See, that's really weird because I've looked at it And I've never really looked at the Habs and thought, like, man, this guy's numbers are trash. Why is he playing? Well, since Alzner got, thrown into the bin. Brett Kulak's a defenseman that Mark Dumont's always just raved about his advanced numbers. He's a guy who's had top 4 minutes this time. I don't need to tell you about Shea Weber. Jeff Petry's a defenseman who moves the puck a lot, but he's always the top of giveaways in that. But again, 40 points from a defenseman, you look at that. Arturi Lekkonen's a player that gets put in a lot of good positions. You look at his numbers. So, yeah, the Habs, I think the problem the Habs have is, yeah, they've got some great, analytical players. They're just missing some stars and some real talent. So there's not a lot to complain about with Montreal there, but...
So one player, I guess, going on the Canadiens one there, the one player that stands out in, like, I don't know what he is Ben Sherratt. And I've seen people talk about him, and I've read mixed reviews about his stats, like his underlying statistics. But, like, when you talk to me about Ben Sherratt, like, watching him play is different than what people say about his stats.
Man, he's a weird player. Originally, I remember when they signed him, people said he's not an upgrade from Jordy Ben, who had just left and signed a weird deal with Vancouver. What a surprise! Yeah. And there were a lot of people saying that our coach loved him and he logged so many minutes at the top pair with Dustin Byfuglien, right? And he comes to Montreal. And there were days when Montreal wanted a more heavy sort of lineup, they would put him with Shea Weber, right? And the longer the season went on, the more he became a regular partner. I think he was going to have 10 goals at the end of this year. And he was playing really, really well. It was, no one understood. Like, Andrew Berkshire, we all know, is a massive analytical guy. Does a lot of stuff for the Habs. Mark Dumont as well from The Athletic. All just don't understand what Ben Sherratt is because the numbers say that he's not a great defenseman. But for some reason, since getting to Montreal, something's just changed in him. I don't know what it is. And I'll admit, I kind of forgot Ben Sherratt existed for a bit because I've just been so on the list of hockey. But he's such an example of, like, he's kind of like you look at, I think Steven Stamkos was a player that people looked at, like, shooting percentage-wise and said, he's just proving everything wrong. Now, Ben Sherratt is not Steven Stamkos. But he's just a player that I look at, and I think, something's wrong with you. I don't know what you are, but you're doing the good things, and I'm not going to complain about it. But again, What's the thing with Ben Sherratt? He should be a complimentary piece, a good depth defense, but not playing in the top 4, top 2. So, yeah.
Inflated 21 points.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take 10 goals from the defenseman any day. Victor Mete not getting a lot of goals, guys. Yeah, he got 3 this year, but hey, could have used them last year, buddy. Won't lie.
I guess we kind of skipped past this point because you brought it up and I accidentally changed the subject. We were talking about Drew Doughty.
God, he's
so
talking.
And I think this is something, since we're talking about analytics, we might as well bring this up. And I think Adam and I, we talked about it. The Athletic player poll came out, and there was a question about if players look at analytics or not. And there was kind of more leaning towards, I think, no. Mm-hmm. So Drew Doughty saying they're crap, I understand. I understand why. He's probably one of the guys who's like, hell no, I'm not looking at the stats. Like, I already know what I am. Do you think it would be good for players to I'm not saying, and I think this is something that kind of gets mixed up with the whole analytics versus eye test debate, is when I say look at this analytics, I'm not saying look just at the analytics. I'm saying look at the analytics and yes, okay, go watch video. Like, I assume most NHL players watch their own video. Like, they have most teams have iPads on the benches. And you see it from at least watching the Toronto games. Both teams go back, even when they're on the bench, and watch certain plays. So I don't see why it's an issue for players to go look at statistics.
Yeah, I kind of feel.
Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
Oh no, like, I think it just, for me, what I kind of felt like Drew Doughty's, I guess, like, when it comes to like these kind of like underlying, like, he's kind of like in a certain tier where that whole like superstardom
Right.
is already evaluated, and you already know, like, yeah, you said, you know what you're getting with him. Also, like, he came from like the 2008 draft, right? It was before like this whole stats thing became on the rise. I think for guys coming in now, like how they're going to be analyzed is that there's more of that balance now. But I think it just, from Drew Doughty's perspective, he comes from, I guess, like more than 10 years ago of how these guys were being evaluated.
For me, okay, so here's my thing. It's like, for me, I look at the stats. Like, if someone had to explain Corsi to me, I'd probably be clueless half the time. Like, they'd need to dumb it down. Like, you know, in The Office, in the Surplus episode, Michael goes, explain it to me like I'm 5.
Yeah.
That's how you'd have to explain everything to me.
Mhm.
Anything like, what the hell's Corsi? Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I can imagine players have the same issues. Like, when you're 16 and you just got into the OHL, you think they're telling you about Corsi? Probably not.
Yeah.
You're going to need someone to dumb it down for you. And I think people can do that. Like, people have the ability to say, okay, this is what Corsi is. This is how you improve Corsi. That's what you tell the coach. Like, I think a lot, like a coach, a GM, like I think Kyle Dubas and John Chaika are kind of exceptions, because that's how they kind of, I guess, grew up in a sense. In like, this is how their models are based around analytics. But how many teams now have analytical departments? I think all of them but Anaheim, or is it Edmonton? Either one of those teams. I'm not sure which one. Do you think the GM that hired them knows everything about analytics, or do you think the analytical department explains it, dumbs it down for the GM?
I think, like, kind of dumbs it down to a certain extent, but like,
Probably.
I think, yeah.
So why can't the players, like, say, okay, this is your stats, and someone says this is what that means? I don't see why that's an issue.
Yeah, you're right. That should be the job of an analytics department. It's just is to dumb it down. You know, like you're teaching, I don't know, multiplications to a grade, I don't know, grade 4. Is that when we learned how to do division? I don't remember. I get if a player doesn't really want to, like, and this is the argument, Daniel. I don't know if you've listened to this episode. I think me and Alex have talked about this before. I said, could you imagine if you're a guy, like, let's say I'm Alex Pietrangelo, right? I've got triplets as of last year before. You know, I'm the captain of the St. Louis Blues. So, you know, I've got a family life, you know, I got to keep in shape. I've got team meetings, which, you know, that's probably where your analytics should be. But, you know, I'm probably looking at, I'm looking at lots of game footage, all this kind of stuff, practices, all this kind of stuff is just built, you know, the travel, normal athlete life, all this busy stuff. And also I'm in a contract year. I think a player would look at it and said, listen, I've got enough on my plate. Why do I need to sit down and be like, so the team save percentage is only a .907 when you're in the ice.
Yeah.
I make a team save percentage joke because Justin Falk notoriously has a very bad save percentage when he's on the ice, or his team does when he is on the ice. That was a big issue in Carolina. So I think that's just where I see it from players.
But they go to practice, right?
Yeah.
And what do you think they work on at practice?
They do drills.
How to get better.
Yeah.
So if the analytic, if this is how, I mean, I know nothing about running a hockey team. The only experience I have running a hockey team is thanks to the NHL video game. So that's my minimal zero, like maybe 0.01% knowledge of running a hockey team. My guess is that they'd work together. Like, the coach is, if I go to the coach, I'm an analytics department, and say, this is the area we need to improve in. This is what the stats are telling me. I don't expect the players to look directly at the stats. I expect the analytical department to explain, this is where we are suffering. What are the analytics telling me? I'm not saying Drew Doughty needs to go look at Corsi, needs to go look at save percentage or whatever he has to look at. But I'd expect the analytical department to say, hey, the stats are saying we're not doing well in the neutral zone, let's say, in breakouts. Can you do, like, let's work, I think that's something you should work on. And then the coach works on breakouts, right? So, like, it all works together. Like, it's a machine. That's my thing, though. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, looking at the stats is an extra thing, but looking at the stats and improving yourself, you think Alex Pietrangelo improves himself so he doesn't make more money? I mean, I don't know what's wrong with Alex Pietrangelo. Probably not a whole lot. But I'm just saying. Like, that's the clear example you gave me.
I think it's fair. Yeah, no, you've got a point. You've got a point. I'm just saying, like, as a scenario, like, my argument is, like, if a player has enough going on, like, why do I have to also be like, I know, I remember this one video, and it was just, like, two Habs players messing around. There was someone else and Paul Byron, and I remember one line, Paul Byron made a joke of, oh, yeah, I'm a Corsi god. All right? So somebody's telling the Habs what they're doing. But are they taking it as serious as I think that's another issue I think organizations are going to have is you need a player to take it seriously, right?
Right.
And, I mean, hey, just Paul Byron's got a contract.
Just like you need to take the coronavirus seriously. Please stay inside.
Yes.
Yes. And look at stats. I don't know.
Yes.
Stay inside and look at stats, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Stay safe.
Hey, Daniel.
Yes.
Do you know what we're doing for Bizarre Adventures next week?
What are we doing?
Well, no, it's your turn to pick.
Oh, yes, Bizarre Adventures.
If not, I have an idea.
You have an idea? Okay, I was thinking, because I wanted to stick with the sports thing, because, like, we haven't done a hockey one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking Miracle, but I don't know how any of us are going to be able to find that right now.
I mean, I think we can find a way.
Okay.
The internet
proposed idea.
Yeah.
I don't know. I started reading so much on, like, for some reason, like, the Soviet Union's hockey program in the 70s.
I've never watched a hockey movie in my life. I haven't seen Slapshot. I haven't seen any of the Mighty Duck movies. I've never watched a single hockey.
You've never seen Goon?
Nope.
That's a
all right, you want to watch Goon?
That's not an actual hockey movie.
You said Miracle on Ice.
It's hilarious. It's not that good.
All right, so this is my proposed one. If Miracle on Ice, if we can't find that, we could do a combination one, which I know that's kind of crazy because I just know they're both on Netflix.
Okay.
So Goon, but then we watch Ice Guardians. It's like
I've seen Ice Guardians.
Yeah. So like we do the 1 and 2. We'll just do the. So we keep the narrative.
Adam's gonna hate Goon. Adam's not gonna find Goon funny.
Why?
I don't know if it's your sense of humor.
Why is that? What's it like?
No, it's very hockey, like tough guy. It's it's very stupid funny.
This is the 2000. Wait. Is the movie Miracle 2004?
Yes.
Okay.
Adam will find it.
Yeah. No. Don't worry. You forget, I watch a lot of anime, and a lot of the anime is hard to find. So I know, how do I put this? I can, Put Locker 1, 2, 3 movies, people. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
I'm on Put Locker right now.
Great.
Those are the proposed ideas, I guess, those 3 movies, or those 2 in a doc.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
What doing for the next episode of the normal pod, the retro review.
Yes,
that's what it's
the Olympic review.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So what do we want to look at the NHLPA player polls then as well?
Sure.
Yep.
All right. I have my lines for Team Canada. If you want a sneak peek, a teaser for next episode for the people.
Just your 4th line.
Just my 4th line. Okay.
Yeah.
I had so many players. Like my defense,
No, I don't know
if you guys are going to agree with my defense, but
probably
my
not.
My fourth line is Jonathan Taves, Steven Stamkos, and Braden Point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a good team.
And I'll give you my third pair just because. My third pair is Marc-Edouard Vlasic and Dougie Hamilton.
Okay. I thought you were gonna say for the fourth one like Brendan Gallagher, Jonathan Drouin, like Phil Dano.
And if I put Brendan Gallagher over Steven Stamkos or Braden Point, I don't think I could look at myself in the mirror.
The point that you want, I don't even want to get into it now.
What?
I can't believe you put Marc-Edouard Vlasic.
Why? He had one bad year.
Yeah, he had one bad year, and it doesn't look like it's getting any better.
No, it's Marc-Edouard Vlasic, dude. And look at the Sharks in their entirety. You're telling me there's not one? He doesn't. This is six line. This is six defensemen bottom pairing Marc-Edouard Vlasic. This is the guy who's been to the Olympics for. You're telling me you're not going to get the Vlasic pick?
Yes.
Another? Are you kidding me?
I'm not putting Vlasic on my team.
Then give me a Canadian left-handed defenseman to put in over Marc-Edouard Vlasic.
No, not right
There's
now.
not one out there.
I'll give it to you on Sunday.
It's him or Ryan Suter that are there.
Ryan Suter.
Over Marc-Edouard Vlasic.
Is he American?
What?
Yeah, Ryan Suter's American.
Hold on a minute.
Get your nationality straight.
Ryan Suter. Hold on a minute.
I'm pretty sure he's American.
Yeah, but he is.
Oh, yeah.
Where the hell did I get that from?
Thanks, Daniel.
Wait a minute. Cat Friendly is
Cat
Friendly's messing with me then.
Probably.
I swear to God, I looked up Ryan Suter and there was a Canadian flag.
Nope.
Like, I was like, I'm pretty sure he played like for the U.S. the last two Olympics.
Oh, don't tell me I was looking at Brandon Suter and Brendan Sutherland. I think I was. Whoops-a-daisy.
That's funny.
Guys, I want to talk about my Olympic lines now.
No, that's next episode.
I'm just going to read it then. We don't have to argue.
No, I'm going to stop recording.
No. Cale Makar is my seventh defenseman.
You gave away too much now. See, I don't know.
Okay. Daniel, end the episode before he starts talking.
Anyway, guys, this was fun. Great talk on analytics, Moneyball, all that stuff. I hope to host this again one day soon, but remember, I just enjoy being on the show.
Yeah. Make sure.
So you want my job, but you just don't want to say it outright.
Make sure to make sure to check out the links in the description, our social medias, the YouTube page, the Instagram page. Make sure to check out Adam's YouTube page. Are you still putting up videos?
Not right now because I have nothing to talk about, but I might. I might do a video about my Olympic lineup just because I really want to talk about it.
You should do old games.
1993, Game 6.
Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a review. Let us know what you want to talk about. Have any comments? Throw them down in the review section. We might read them.
How about you tell us about how Marc-Edouard Vlasic should be a Canadian Olympian?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
See you guys on Sunday.